This is the semi-final match between Scalp and the Armenian King. At the start of the tournament, Armenian King said, "Give me anything but Pergamon," and when he gets to the semi-finals, after beating Athens with the Odrysian Kingdom, or no, after beating the Odrysian Kingdom with Athens, that's how it was, and beating Arverni with Massacre, he comes up with Pergamon against Epirus for Scalp. And Scalp beat Polybian Rome as R4G. Then he beat, he beat Getai with the Nervii. And I think that was it, not entirely sure. But anyway, both are in the semifinals. So Pergamon, not much Pergamon can do, really. Pergamon is, in my opinion, the single most gimped faction currently. It has the Epirus Lancers. It's basically a shitty Greek roster without elite skirmishers, without mid-tier swords. They have the Galatian swords, they can be nice. Problem is they die so quickly. 50 health, 40 morale. So for Armenian King, we have 4 Hoplite Center, we have a few Slingers, 2 Agema Spears, 2 Epirus, 2 Galatian swords on each flank, protected by Hoplites and Thureos in the rear. For Epirus, we have cheap archers, 4 archers up front. Then we have mercenary Italian cavalry on each flank, backed up by mercenary Italian swords, 3 of those. 3 mercenary Samnites, royal Peltasts, 2 of those, and the mercenary Italian cavalry in the rear. So here's the Pergamese problem. So the slingers are... Pergamon got lucky that the slingers... there are no elite slingers, no elite archers, so these slingers could potentially do well against the archers of Epirus. However, what is 4 Galatian swords going to do against 2 royal peltasts, 3 mercenary Samnites, and 3 Italian swords? It's just not going to happen. Also, 4 Thureos spears for Epirus. So Pergamon just can't. I mean, I've tried Pergamon a lot myself. Sometimes I get really close to winning, but it just doesn't happen. There is no staying power. Well, I'm lying now actually, because I've won a few games. I believe against Seleucid, Bactria, Egypt. But again, I'm not really counting those, because those were in quick battles. Those weren't against... Yeah, they were against people who might have been new to the game, let's just say that. So then everything works, basically. Every single army can work, but against people who at least play somewhat regularly, being forced to bring Hoplites as your core, it's just not going to work very well at all. Pergamon is a disaster of a faction in every single way. Epirus isn't great. Epirus has some glaring weaknesses, but Epirus is a lot stronger than Pergamon. Everything is a lot stronger than Pergamon. So it looks like we're going to see some skirmishing early on. The slingers outrange the archers, so the slingers might be able to fire, retreat, and do a lot of damage to the archers that way. Just needs to be a bit careful here, because the Italian cavalry can knock down the Hoplites and get to the skirmishers. So by bringing the Agema spears up a bit closer might be something worth trying. Slingers are almost in range of the archers. So the slingers should start firing momentarily. Just fire, withdraw, rinse, repeat. because Pergamon really needs their slingers to be alive for the late game. Looks like the archers are getting the first volleys. Now the slingers are starting to fire, and the archers are dropping super quickly here. Nice work with the slingers. So this is what Pergamon needs to do if Pergamon is to win. Pergamon just needs to keep chipping away at Epirus, not overcommit, stay at the range where they can comfortably withdraw. That's going to be super important. Moving the Gemma spears up to mirror the Italian cavalry is a good idea. Hoplites can take arrow fire for days frontally, so that's not really a problem for Pergamon. The archers taking massive damage from the slingers. But I don't like this. This engagement is happening way too early for what Pergamon is going to be comfortable with. Cavalry incoming against the Galatian swords. Using the Thoreo spears to throw, but they're going to get knocked down. Both of the units are going to get knocked down to a significant degree. Countercharging with the Epirus lancers. Countercharging with the Epirus lancers. But at this point, I mean, this mercenary Italian cavalry, there's nothing really stopping it from going after the skirmishers in the center here. Galatian swords just die so easily. Italian swords are going to do well against Hoplites. Winning here against the mercenary Italian cavalry. Losing significantly here due to them being up against Samnites and Thoreos. So all it really takes is a cavalry charge on Galatian swords, and then the unit is pretty much useless. Using Epirus to stop the Thoreos from firing and to do damage to the Italian cavalry, presumably just to save these guys over here. But now in the center we have Royal Peltasts and Royal Peltast up against Hoplites. It's just a horrible matchup for Pergamon. So I think if Armenian King wanted to have played this safe, he could have kited a lot more than he did. Refused to engage, pick off the skirmishers, and make... Because what he did now was he basically engaged a superior melee army with an inferior one. Like, there was absolutely no way he was going to be able to defeat Epirus. Even Epirus even had the cavalry advantage in this fight and had the infantry advantage. The only thing he had was that he enjoyed a small skirmishing advantage. And if he had used that to take out the archers, then maybe this could have been possible. Maybe the cavalry of Scalp Hunter would have been used more rashly, so that he could have used his own cavalry to greater effect instead of just for protecting his skirmishers. But I think in this instance, I think engaging for Pergamon was the main mistake that Armenian King did. But the most decisive thing was no doubt just getting Pergamon. Pergamon, in my opinion, the worst faction in the game. There is no faction worse than Pergamon. So the Italian cavalry gets into the skirmishers, the slingers are off the field. This is something you'll see a lot with Pergamon. The cavalry loses, the infantry loses, the skirmishers are chased off the field. But there's not much left at the end of the day when Pergamon has gotten spanked. And the Agema spears as well. I mean, the best that the Agema spears can hope for is just to square up and be able to hold for a while. But they're not going to be able to get significant kills. Getting some nice flanking shots in here on the Royal Peltas, but it's against their shielded side, so it's not as effective as it could have been. The Royal Peltas are going to eat the Agema spears alive. The Agema spears have a very nice charge bonus, but with their low melee attack and weapon damage, they're not going to be killing anything. It's one of those units that you think, that unit looks pretty good. It has square, it has expert charge defense, so expert charge defense and square, that could probably be an interesting combination, but it just loses to everything in melee combat. And this square against infantry, it's good if you have shock cavalry coming in to smash the infantry that is engaged. It's good for holding on for some time, but these Theraeos are not going to be killing any mercenary Samnites, and that's the Pergamon's problem. No killing power against mid-tier units except for picked peltasts, and you know how I feel about picked peltasts. And then we have the Epirus lancers as well, but they again bringing a lot of Epirus lancers against several lines of enemy infantry. Super risky. They cannot take punishment, so here you have just the squares holding off against the sword onslaught. So I think, yeah, like I said earlier, I think the good game to both players. I think the main mistake made here by Armenian King was just plain being too aggressive. Like I said before, there's just no way his melee force is going to be able to defeat the... So for Epirus, we have 2 elite swords, 3 mid-tier swords, and 2 shit-tier swords. For Pergamon, we only have 4 shit-tier swords, and that's it. In terms of skirmishing, that is the only way that Pergamon could have edged out an advantage here. So being a lot more patient with the skirmishing, trying to take the archers off the field, make the cavalry make mistakes, I think those are things that could have made this game. To be honest, he probably would still have lost. He used his Epirus well, but there wasn't enough cavalry to be able to block the Italian cavalry. Not enough swords, in my opinion. So he could really only have brought 2 more swords. Probably ditch the Theraeos, bring 2 more swords. Maybe try something like a pike center, keep the skirmishers behind there, and be super patient. Because if you're going to play as Pergamon, you need to be super patient. You need to take every single engagement on your own terms. In this battle, this would have meant taking care of the skirmishers, taking care of the cavalry, and then being able to use the Epirus to good effect against the now isolated infantry. But again, I'd like to see the player who's able to defeat any faction that has good mid-tier troops with Pergamon consistently. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, it's just not going to happen unless you're playing against people who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. So these were the semifinals. The bad luck continued for Armenian King. The good luck continued for Scalp Hunter. So Scalp Hunter is going to advance to the finals in the tournament, where he's going to meet... I don't know if I've uploaded the second semifinal battle, but he's going to be meeting Achilles in the finals. And Armenian King moves on to the semifinals, and those are best of 3. So there will be more games in the final round, which I will also upload later. But anyway, thanks for playing, thanks for watching. Strength and honor.